So what do you do when Ancestry has a record wrong? When one of the records that's in the tree has been listed incorrectly, probably through a indexing error, what do you do? I'm Amy, and in my last video about Find a Grave and the cautions that you should take as you accept the records in Find a Grave, one of the things that came up is the fact that sometimes the record is wrong. And I had one of the viewers say, hey, I really wish you would cover on Ancestry what to do when you come across a record and the information in it that has been indexed or whatever is wrong. So I wanted to do a quick video on how to, first of all, change a record or add the information that you know is correct into a record on Ancestry, why it matters, why you even care whether they got it right, and a couple of scenarios where that's the case. It's really not hard, and it's really important that you know how to do this because one, it helps out your searches, and two, it actually will help everybody else. So let's dive in. All right, right here, I have somebody in my family tree, my second great-grandfather, Samuel Kinsley. He was from Switzerland. His name is spelled weird. I guess it's really Kunzli. I'm not sure. But they changed the spelling in the United States to K-U-E-N-Z-L-I to try to make it sound a little bit more, I think, the way that it was to them. And so as a result, his name, frequently I find his name interestingly spelled in records. And so I want to talk to you about a couple of things that you might find when you are in a situation like this and how to deal with it. So the first one is, here is his marriage record. We see him as, it's close, K-U-E-N-Z-E-L-E, and this is his record, this is his wife. I've done a lot of research on the family and I know this is theirs. So anyway, so if I open up this record, here you see the indexed information. Indexing is when you take the information from the picture and some volunteer or a paid employee of Ancestry or whomever goes through and they take the nuggets of information out that will then make it searchable to other people. So like if this picture was just out there, I would never be able to find it unless I was looking in that particular county and that particular record set. But by indexing the record, then all of a sudden when I'm doing a search for Samuel Kinsley, married about the date of 1866 to Frederica Gade, wow, this is going to pop up because it's been indexed. So if something was indexed incorrectly, then your record may not be showing up in your hints or in a search. And by the way, there's more records than just that are in your hints. Okay, that's another video. Anyway, so in this instance, it's not a huge deal, but I still want to show you about how it works. Let's look at the record really quick. I have that open right here. This was, this has a lot of great information. It has his name, Samuel Kinsley, and it is spelled K-U-E-N-Z-E-L-E. They did spell that way on the record. So this is an important thing to note. This wasn't an indexing mistake. Nobody indexed the record incorrectly. It's just that's not how the spelling of his name is. And so I can make a notation to Ancestry with the correct spelling. So then it may show up a little bit more generously in somebody else's search. This was all written in the same hand. So what happened was they either filled out a form and somebody transferred it, or more than likely, they stood there and asked the questions and then spelled like it sounded to them. That's true of a census enumerator. That happened all the time. So you'll see a spelling incorrect, but it's how it sounded to the person that was hearing it. So, and sometimes it can be kind of weird. It can be way off. But let me show you how to fix it. So let me go back to the record, and right over here under the record, I can add or update the information. I also want to point out to you that I can also report a problem. So like if there's some kind of a record and it's like really a problem, then I can let Ancestry know. This information is about me or a minor child is being displayed and it shouldn't be out there. That's an important thing. This is harassment, inaccurate information, vulgar, offensive, or pornographic. This particularly applies with photographs. Copyright infringement. This is this record should not be being posted. It's under copyright, or something else. So if you have an issue like that, let Ancestry know so that they can go back and fix it. But if you don't have an issue like that and you just want to add or update information, which is what I'm going to do here, they want you to provide an alternate for Samuel Kinsley. So I can change the name, gender, marriage date, or marriage. Now, if this were a census record, a birth record, those choices are going to be different. But in this instance, I want to make a notation about his name. And I have to give a reason. Notice these things are required. I want to write that it's not a transcription error. I can change the name, or I can say that there's a variation to the name. And if this were a female, sometimes it's really helpful to add a maiden name if her married name is the only name that's been included in the record, because we all know women are hard to find. And when we add those maiden names in, that can be really helpful. So right here, I'm just going to do a name change. And I'm going to say Samuel, Kuenzli, which is what he went by. Now, one of the things that I recommend that you do is always add why you know this is true. So you can explain your source or your update. And I'm going to submit that alternative. Now, this shows you that Samuel Kinsley, add an alternate name, and that information that I put in is there. It shows that I'm the one that did it, and it gives you the date. So now if I refresh this page, now you see right here that we have an alternate spelling for his name. Yay! And if I click on it, it'll show you who put the information in and what their reasoning was, if they gave it. Okay? So that's great. Now the advantage is when I am searching for records on Ancestry, Ancestry is going to look at both versions of that name. Yippee. Now, this is particularly helpful in census records because sometimes the enumerators were pretty far off and it causes census records to not be found because they're just too far off what somebody's searching for. And that's the beauty of trying to search for alternate spellings of a name and things like this. But this helps, and you can make a difference by making these changes. So let me show you a census record. So here I have my great-grandmother, and this is Aimee Julia Dumont. And it's not Dumont, it's Dumont. And you can see that there's already a change here for her. And if you click on that, I did that in 2016. Okay? And her name is really Aimee, but for some reason the census enumerator heard her as Emma, as you can see here in this image. And so again, it was indexed correctly with the exception of the Dumont. And if you look at this, let me go back to this again. It shows that there was an error in the transcription right here. Do you see that? So that's a notation. Now I'm going to add another one right here. I'm going to do the name, and I'm going to say a name change like I did before, and I'm going to make it Aimee. And yes, I was named after her. All right, so name on all the records is Aimee. Let me put that in there. It must have been heard incorrectly by the enumerator, and I'm going to submit that alternate. And then I can apply the surname Dumont to all other members of the household, which is good because that was wrong on all of them. And so now I have that saved everywhere. So now we have two name changes. And as you see here, if I were to refresh this page, we'll see both of those changes. Okay? So that was an indexer error, and it was an enumerator error in probably how he heard the name, or a neighbor gave him the name wrong or something like that. But one of the things that I do also want to show you is sometimes these name changes don't show up when you're first looking at the record. Let me give you an example of that. So here is the record we were just looking at, that 1880 census, and it's Aimee Dumont still. But they do have the notation here that it should be Aimee Dumont, but they don't have the notation that it should be Aimee Dumont. Now, as I understand it, the search engine is going to recognize the Aimee, okay? Sometimes you need to go into the record to actually see all the different alternates and things like that that somebody has put in. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that heads up. Let me give you another example from Aimee. So here I am back in her census, or back in a search for her. And here we have the California Death Index. And like I said before, it has it right here. It's showing that it's added her maiden name to the record because she was Aimee Dumont before she married George Paston. So let's take a look at this death index. Now in this instance, when I go over this information, it's not changing it. And let me tell you why. The reason why is because it was done as part of Ancestry's indexing program, or wherever the record originally came from. And they do this a lot on death records for women in particular, because we have her father's surname as Dumont. And so they wanted to automatically make it easier for somebody to find it. So anybody looking for Aimee Paston or Aimee Dumont, this record will pop for them, which is great. Thank you for doing that. So that's a quick and dirty on how to change a name that has been incorrectly indexed in the record, or you can change other information as well, not just names. And I actually had a project for a client where the record looked like he was, I think it was like 35 years old, but he was actually 75 years old. And nobody could find his record because the paper, it really was hard to read. But when I compared the handwriting over the rest of the page, it became evident to me that it was a 7. And then all of a sudden, I knew this record pertained to the person that I was looking for. So while names are a big deal in the search engines, those ages are too, because Ancestry isn't going to pop a person for you if their birth date is 40 years different than what it ought to be. They're going to think this belongs to somebody else. So do the world a favor, and when you find things like that, make the changes. By the way, on Family Search or MyHeritage or Find My Past, there's similar options for you. So help the world, do a little good deed, and make those changes when they apply. If this video has been helpful to you, please like it. If you have a transcription error or something like that that you found in your tree, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.